But next week we have something extra cool to reveal, and we're going to need an entire show for it. So we're going to pause in specialization reveals, but do not miss Ready Up next Friday at noon.
Oh, Ruby, what do you have in store for us this week? Well, we shall see. Hey guys, and welcome to another video. Today was the live stream where they took a break from giving us elite specializations. We did hear that there was supposed to be something exciting coming out on the stream this week. Really, there wasn't too much, honestly. ArenaNet gave us a stream talking about some of the new World vs. World stuff that was largely already outlined in a blog yesterday. And then we did get to see something pretty interesting, and that was some 1v1 action with the Dragonhunter. In fact, it was Zerka Hambo versus Zerka Hambo. Two heavies duking it out, Guardian versus Warrior under the new specialization system. It was actually pretty fun to watch. That's what you'll be seeing a lot of the footage in the background as. But aside from that, the stream really didn't have much else. Ruby said last week that the entire stream would be dedicated to whatever they had planned. I'm thinking plans changed, considering we actually had two separate things that seemed to quickly come together. I will go over the World vs. World stuff, though. I'm not going to linger too long because I'm not an expert on the game type, but I do like the sound of what is changing. And then after the live stream, ArenaNet announced something else to do with the first PvE beta. Also, as some of you guys may have heard, it was my birthday today. As I record this video, we're coming up to the very end. I tweeted this out incidentally as a part of a joke on Twitter last night, because I've been running the Triple Trouble worm for about a year, fairly consistently, maybe not so much in the past 5 months or so, but been killing that thing a lot, hoping for some of the unique ascended armor that drops from it with the green smoky skin on it, because it's rare and it's kind of cool. I've always wanted it for List, but never managed to get the drop. I was tongue-in-cheek joking that because it was my birthday, of course I was going to get the drop, right? That's how the universe works. And funnily enough, my cheeky tweet was rewarded. I'm still half convinced that despite the devs telling me that they don't have the tech to do this, someone was watching over me. But yes, I did finally manage to get the loot, and it's actually been a pretty incredible day. I did host a live stream with Matt Visual as well, where we played some Smite earlier. And future podcasts or live shows, as we're now doing, will actually be featured on a channel of their own, which you guys can find a link to in the description. I would really encourage you guys to subscribe down there. If you missed the live stream today, it will be going up on that YouTube channel within the week, and there you'll see a lot of the classic podcast discussion and cool stuff we chat about, but also we'll be playing games together. There'll be actual gameplay there and actual stuff to watch, so it's kind of a cool mix of what was good about the old show and some new stuff, and it's all live. Those are running every single Thursday, just so you guys know. You'll be able to catch us there next Thursday too. Oh, and there are pictures of my wonderful cake. So, moving on to the ArenaNet live stream. Let's first talk about World vs. World. Now, yesterday I never did a video on this, but they actually just kind of elaborated on a blog post that came out on the website you guys should be seeing right now, where they talked about two core changes to World vs. World. One of the core changes is to do with the way we rank up, which I'll talk about first, and the other is actually about the way that locations in World vs. World are upgraded. Now, we did hear a long time ago that not only were we getting a new Borderlands with Heart of Thorns, but that there would be core changes to World vs. World itself to offer more incentive for defending and, you know, more dramatic changes as opposed to the game type itself. That would affect all maps, even, for example, the Eternal Battlegrounds, which aren't changing. I've been excited about this just as much as I have the other Borderlands. They've been very vague. Is this the information? Is this the full story now, or are there going to be even further World vs. World changes? I couldn't really tell you, but this seems like a good step in the right direction. First, let's look at rank points and the ability system. Big change straight away. The two lines for damage against guards and defense against guards, which have lots more tiers than many of the other lines out there, are actually being dropped down now. Now, ArenaNet did a long time ago say that they were going to try and keep updating World vs. World ranks and leveling things so that they were all able to be pushed that far, and that was a really exciting prospect to me. But what they're actually doing in general here is they're lowering things, cutting some stuff away, and making a lot of these tracks easier to master. And the reason they're doing this is because obviously with Heart of Thorns there's going to be a lot of new players running around, and there's quite a steep hill to climb when you first start in World vs. World. Sometimes you're not even level 80, you don't even really understand your build, you don't have good gear or anything, but then you're also faced with the fact that many other veteran people have potentially thousands of ranks on you, and are getting really powerful buffs like Applied Fortitude. So they're actually removing these, and this is the big point number one. They're actually removing Applied Fortitude and Applied Strength. So currently, if you max out Defense Against Guards or Guard Killer, you will get this extra bonus that one of them gives you vitality every time you kill a guard, up to 2,500 extra health, which is a lot. Can I just say, like, some of you guys that play more innately heavy vitality classes, like necromancers, like warriors, you might not feel that 2,500 health make a huge difference, but trust me, as someone who comes from like playing elementalists, low vitality characters, that is a huge difference. Probably the biggest, most potent buff out there at the moment. And also Guard Killer, which gives you 100 more power and 100 more condi damage, arguably is not stronger of the two, but these are very powerful, and when you're a new player and you don't have them, it can feel really unfair losing fights to other players. Now, I think the devs still respect that unfairness is a part of World vs. World. You know, there's a reason why you're allowed to use food in World vs. World. There's a reason why there's not even teams all the time. There's a reason why outnumbered's a thing. There's a reason why we can have small zergs fighting big zergs. Like, World vs. World thrives on that asymmetry, but this was just a bit too much. And as I say, going into Heart of Thorns, a lot of new people are going to want to play World vs. World, and having so much they need to work on to really feel like they can be on par, I can understand the devs wanting to change, particularly when you consider that these two lines were far more valuable than many other lines. So much so that really you'd go into World vs. World and you wouldn't get to have fun with the World vs. World ability system until you had hundreds of ranks under your belt already and you have Guard Killer and Defense Against Guards maxed out. Now yes, you could possibly have gone into any other line, but really any World vs. World player would have told you, any guide would have told you, hey, spend your first whole ton of points on just these two lines, and that's not very fun. You know, I specifically remember my experience of starting World vs. World once this system came out, spending God knows how long, what felt like an eternity, getting those two up, and by the time I had them maxed out, I really didn't care about the others. I didn't want to experiment too much with my points. So the idea is, by taking these away, by cutting down the amount of points it takes to max these lines, players then kind of have more fun quicker in where they want to put their points, and there's not this really massive uneven footing flying around based off of these two buffs. So I kind of agree with the change. They also say, though, that because without those two perks, those buffs, the lines seem really weak, they were actually doubling the effectiveness of them. So it's not just you take 5% less damage now. No, it's you take 10% less damage and you do 10% more damage. And even in the live stream, Tyler said, hey, this might not even be perfect either. We may even move it up to 20%. I'd like to see them kind of get settled on a number, though, before they push out something and then assume they're going to change it later, because I think ArenaNet gets caught in that a little bit too much. But yeah, so that's one big change. And then actually across the board, they're doubling these things. So a lot of lines were only giving you like 5% extra siege damage, for example, at max. Now that's going to be 10% extra siege damage, or 10% resistance to siege damage, and so forth across the board. Then they are lowering the amount of points it costs to finish certain things off. So currently it takes you 75 World vs. World levels to max burning oil. Now it'll only cost you 60. So they're all dropping to 60. And again, making it easier this way is just to make people feel like it's not such a daunting task getting so many World vs. World ranks. Because if you consider each rank is maybe, you know, like 45 minutes of gameplay, asking someone to get 75 ranks to max out a line, we're talking 50 plus hours of gameplay. And, you know, that's even perhaps a pretty conservative guess there too. And yes, you can rank very quickly if you're in really good zergs and you have all the boosters and stuff, but not everyone always has that luxury, and not everyone's always in T1. Another big line that's changing is supply capacity, which is going from 300 points all the way down to 145, which is a huge difference. And in general, once this patch goes through, basically we're just going to have more stuff we can play into, and probably max out the World vs. World ability stuff even quicker. So I am a little disappointed with this, because I like the idea of World vs. World ability points really meaning something for a long time. I want to be able to continue spending them. I don't want to get to a point where I have everything already maxed out and there's nothing else to go for, and I feel like we're going to approach that point much faster now than we would have before. But if the overall experience of spending points is more fun because we need less points, and the points are worth more because they're giving us more potent buffs, I'm overall pretty happy with it. The last thing is cosmetic, but it's pretty cool. Remember how in PvE, once we hit level 80, once the expansion comes out, we will no longer have that yellow experience bar at the bottom. The bar will change to a different color and it will represent our masteries. Well, for World vs. World, we're no longer going to have our experience bar there either, and it will change to reflect World vs. World XP, which is brilliant. World vs. World XP is what we care about, and having that represented at the bottom instead of our level just seems to go very naturally, and it's something that I'm happy to see that the devs are doing. So that's part one of the World vs. World changes. The other thing is a change to the way locations are upgraded. So currently in game, if you cap, say, a tower, you have to manually spend supply and queue upgrades on that tower. And so if other players are, say, trying to take supply from themselves, from the depots, you can get annoyed with them because they're taking from the pool that your location needs to be able to tier itself up. So they're kind of overhauling the system. Internally, they've been calling them auto upgrades, but as they say, player facing, it will just be the idea of upgrading stuff. Things actually now upgrade automatically as soon as they're captured. And so camps will have 2 tiers worth of upgrades, and towers, keeps, and stone myths all have 3 tiers of upgrades. And this just kind of happens without micromanagement now. So there's a little bit less, I suppose, for scouts to do, but it is more intuitive, and hopefully it means that more of this stuff sees play in World vs. World now. So the idea is they no longer require supply either. Dollyacks are still a thing, and getting Dollyacks from supply camps into locations is still very important, but it's not because they're like dropping supply off in these locations, it's just because they reduce the amount of time for these upgrades to go through by like a flat amount. So let's take towers for an example. They've got 3 tiers. Once you flip that tower, immediately it starts trying to upgrade, and it will upgrade, assuming no Dollyacks get to it. In 40 minutes, it will upgrade to a T2 tower, and that T2 tower will have stronger walls, and it will get stuff like a pot of burning oil, and it will get various things that make it a more fortified location. But you can reduce that 40 minutes. Every time you get a Dollyack in the gate, it reduces that 40 minutes down, like in chunks. So you still want to escort Dollyacs, but the whole game of who can take supply in the depot doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't cost people gold or effort to actually queue things. It's not, you know, dependent on guilds having to claim locations and stuff like that. So it's an awful lot more streamlined. Then as soon as it hits the next tier, it will try and tier up again straight away, and this will take 80 minutes, they said, for a tower. And then once it hits the next tier after that, it will try to get to the final tier, tier 3, and it will take 120 minutes. So in theory, if there were no Dollyacs around, if you were perfect at killing all Dollyacs at this one tower, it would take that server 4 hours to fully upgrade that location, which is plenty of time for your server to strike back. But if they are able to actually get a lot of Dollyacs in, then they can reduce this massively by like half. They said that if it was a tower that's quite close to a supply camp, then you can actually, you know, get this thing fully upgraded in 2 hours, as long as you're letting your Dollyacs through. So this shifts a lot more emphasis on pushing those Dollyacs through, and hopefully makes them a bigger part of the game. Because of this too, there are going to be changes coming to sentries. Now, sentries, currently, if a Dollyak tries to walk past a sentry, the sentry will attack it, but especially if it's an escorted Dollyak, it's not going to do very much, right? It will slow it down a bit, and then it will just carry on its merry way. We'd actually already heard this information before. Well, the sentries now will be, as well in Eternal Battlegrounds, actually able to throw their bolus at Dollyacs, and they will cripple Dollyacs for 5 minutes. Now, we heard before, this wasn't confirmed today, but I believe it should still be the same system. We've heard that a crippled Dollyak cannot be cleansed in any normal way. You can only cleanse a crippled Dollyak by using a med kit that you find on allied sentries. So again, there's much more significance to the sentries too, and keeping pathways clear in escorting your Dollyacs through. So that's kind of the way they're trying to streamline things. I don't know how much of a big change this is going to make to the game type itself. I try not to talk too much on that. But another big change is something they're doing to waypoints. Now, currently, you can upgrade locations like keeps and actually plant waypoints in them if you've had them long enough, and this can be very, very powerful, especially considering that the maps really aren't that big. There's also, I believe this is still in the game, question mark, but the idea of if a keep with a waypoint is under attack, the second that the event, the defense event, like flips and ticks over to the next defense event, if you have people spamming the waypoint, they can get in anyway. And so, like, these were just really, really, really powerful things. ArenaNet actually changing the way waypoints work to use the Edge of the Mists system. In Edge of the Mists, the only waypoints are, there is basically the waypoint that you spawn at, and then one additional waypoint in like a keep very close to your spawn. And you are the only team who can have this waypoint. So if I'm on the red team and I in the red keep, then we get a waypoint there. If the blue team flips the red keep, they don't get that waypoint there. And so the idea here is that right now in game, the upgradable waypoints, either people just never used or they were really, really strong, and they just allowed winning teams to have this huge snowball effect where they control the whole map, and then they also have much quicker response times at dealing with threats. And that snowballness can really, really, really cripple World vs. World. So that's why they're changing this. I think I agree. I've actually heard a few World vs. Worlders over my time say they don't like the waypoints. Anyway, so that's the World vs. World stuff. Hopefully I've detailed that stuff reasonably well to you guys. The rest of the stream was focusing on the Dragonhunter and actual in-game application of this. I think Grouch is bang on the money when he says people want to see these things actually being used. Like, it's one thing to have the blog post reveal of an elite specialization, and it's certainly another thing to have devs talk you through every nuance of the class, all their traits and their skills and stuff, and have demonstrations. But I think there is still one last thing we have been missing of the elite specializations, and that's seeing them in use. In particular, you often see people say, this is cool, but I don't want to see how this class looks in soldier's gear. I want to see what it looks like when it's zerked up. You know, I want to see what the numbers are like. So this is something new that Grouch will be doing, where once an elite specialization is revealed, we actually get to see it be played in some typical conquesty scenarios. So for the Dragonhunter, we got to see him blowing up Hugh Norfolk on a thief. Like, there was a really cool scenario of, hey, he's dropped a whole ton of traps, he's on the point, the thief comes in stealth, and it just gets absolutely honed, 25 vulnerability on him, and then he slams him with a hammer too, and it just completely blows him up. And then actually some really, really cool 1v1s, as you guys have been watching, between two Hambo specs. And obviously they're kind of slanted to show Grouch winning so that people stay excited about the specialization, because people are idiots, and if they see the specialization losing a lot, then they're just going to judge it purely on that. But yeah, they were very fascinating, very cool little matches to watch, and got me a bit more excited about the Dragonhunter, who has, in comparison to the Reaper and the Chronomancer, maybe not been such an excitement to me. Grouch did actually say that he would have started on Chronomancer and shown us some Chronomancer stuff, but it's kind of high skill cap. He wanted more practice on it, so he'll do that first. And we may even see in the future elite specializations versus other elite specializations. Also a very cool thought. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, again, was this idea of something exciting was supposed to be on the live stream. That's where the stream ended for us. And it was kind of just, you know, a bit more detail on some of the World vs. World stuff that we already had from yesterday, and then some 1v1 stuff, which, while cool, wasn't really anything new. What was the exciting thing? Well, maybe it was the post that came out very shortly after the live stream. Was this supposed to be announced on the stream and then ultimately couldn't be? Why? Well, very shortly after, ArenaNet did give us real details on the next beta that will be running in 4 days. May 26th, we will be able to play in Verdant Brink. We will be in the first PvE beta. Those of you who got your portal drops will actually have access to the Heart of Maguma to play the new map. Now, they say that this beta will be running in 2-hour blocks, and there's going to be breaks. So it is not much playtime we'll get, okay? Now, listen very carefully. It's going to be at 11:30 Pacific to 1:30 Pacific, then 3:30 Pacific to 5:30, then 7:30 to 9:30. So if you participate in all three, you get 6 hours of gameplay in the new map, but there's going to be little breaks in between. Those are going to be perfect breaks for what it's worth for you to guys to get online, talk about what you've seen, and post, you know, bugs or feedback you might have on the forums and on Reddit and on all the various places. I will certainly be playing in this. I'm very excited to. And they say specifically the beta will not just feature the new map, but it's looking at the idea of the outpost and event like system that they've got in. So we'll see how the outposts work. We will be able to use the Revenant. We'll be able to play a small amount of story, and they say an early, partially completed version of the day-night cycle meta event that will be going on in Verdant Brink. There's no word on elite specializations, but it does look pretty cool, and in just 4 days. So you guys can bet your bottom dollar I will have information on that, and I'll have some videos on at least my experience if you never managed to get the portal drop. And that's pretty much it for today. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Thank you to those of you who have been on Twitter and have wished me a happy birthday. I really did only say it incidentally at first, and then lots of people came out and were very nice about it. So I wanted you guys to know I appreciate it very much, and I guess I'll see you tomorrow for more good stuff. Catch you next time, guys.